How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Big win for the New York Yankees today. I have a new guest in the house, my friend Ryan Shedd from upstate New York. For those of you who know Bretsky, this was one of his guys at the wedding that I got to meet with our caravan of vehicles heading into Tampa for Brett's wedding. Really cool guy. As you can see, he is a 49er fan. Ryan, introduce yourself, man. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, Richie. I was honored to get the opportunity to come on here and speak some sports with you guys. As Richie said, I'm from upstate New York. I'm a diehard 49er fan, Yankee fan, New York Ranger fan for hockey, college basketball, I root for Syracuse, and the NBA. Believe it or not, Richie, I'm a Miami Heat fan.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's because when Alonzo Mourning went there, back in the late 90s.
Yeah. I actually went to
like
Zoe's first game. I went to Zoe's first game as a member of the Heat. Aged myself a little. It was actually against the Orlando Magic. Penny Hardaway hit a last-second finger roll to get that win. And, in the 90s, a lot of great Knicks, Miami Heat battles during the years. And I'll be honest, it was the same this year. Quite the battle between it kind of on certain levels gave me the 90s vibes. But, you stated off air, it is most definitely not the same NBA. A lot more rules. I know that a lot of basketball purists, recently Rick Barry voiced his displeasure with how illegal screens and a lot of travel calls seem to get overlooked by the refs today. Superstars getting to the stripe has always been a thing, no matter what era. A friend of mine was actually in referee school for a while to try to be an NBA referee, and he himself told me that it was a thing in terms of superstars getting to the line and it being emphasized, which I'm pretty sure wouldn't surprise many of our viewers, nor you for that matter. But we're going to start it up with the New York Yankees. Just bear with me. I'm just posting this out to my main Facebook page.
All good.
All right. Yanks and Rays, wild one in the Bronx. Yankees getting revenge, man, for what went down last week in St. Pete, a game that I almost attended, and I'm glad I didn't.
Cole got rocked.
Yeah, he sure did. I actually witnessed Cole really get rocked a couple of seasons ago with the former host of the show, Mr. Jordan Patrick, and my boy Elliot. But this was a must-have win. And I know it's only May, and the Yankees are the victims of a lot of slander, in my opinion, because of the slow start. I take into account the injuries. I take 100%. Into account the difficulty of the division. I think we're going to be all right. I think this is a good measuring stick. Tampa's a hell of a team to see where we are as a team. I mean, it goes without saying that we need Rodon and Severino to finally pitch. And, of course, having Giancarlo Stanton, Josh Donaldson back into the meat of that order would be helpful. But DJ LeMahieu, man, can't say enough about him today.
A baller.
Oh, my God,
great
man.
Yesterday, too.
Yeah.
Game.
Judge, living up to why he is the best player in all of baseball, 2 huge home runs. LeMahieu saved us a few runs in the field today. And, the closing situation for the Yankees has been a bit of a crapshoot. Today's MLB, a lot of times you get guys that are, real closers pitching in earlier innings based on matchups if you're hitting the top of the order. Aaron Boone, who I've been very skeptical of, I think played it well today, bringing in Wandy when he did. I think Wandy did a hell of a job, in a very high-leverage situation. And tomorrow we do it again.
Yeah, so since the format changed too, they don't see the Rays as much this year. So to elaborate further on your point, they really needed this win. I know it's only May. You're 100% correct, but I mean they don't see the Rays as much as they're going to see them in past seasons. Same thing with the Orioles, the Red Sox. The format changes all that stuff. So you really need to take advantage, especially because they were 9 games up going in, in the standings. They're almost like a must win, and it's May, because they're only going to see them in 2 more series after this one. So they got to take advantage of it. They got to show that they belong,
Yeah, 3-3 for the year, which is a good morale boost. And I think morale boost is where I'm going with it because, you look at previous years, Washington Nationals, Atlanta Braves, Philadelphia Phillies, um, teams in general, and it's been more so in the National League, that by no means were the best regular season team, but really heated up. Two of those three that I just mentioned ended up winning the whole thing. But it's definitely a marathon when you're talking baseball and who's playing best at the end of the year, because in such a hyper competitive American League East, I'm not overly concerned about who wins the division. I want the Yankees to be healthy and doing what they do best at the right time. I think that's what any fan of any team is hoping for towards the playoff run. Because the Rays, I got to say, man, Kevin Cash, formerly 2 years in a row, manager of the year. He didn't win it last year. Early going, you got to say he's probably the favorite, approaching 40 games in. The guy's incredible. What they are able to do with limited resources and to always manage to let guys go at the right time and always filter in talent,
They're the modern day Oakland A's. Everybody watched Moneyball. They were winning with guys that could, like everybody was writing them off. Like, well, they get on base, they can score runs. And that formula worked pretty well for the A's, obviously, for a little while. And, the Rays are like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? They never even heard of him, and they're, batting 350, it's like, who the heck is this guy?
I was the first one. Yeah, I was the first one that was thrilled when the Rays let G-Man Choi go, being that he was such a Yankee killer. And they haven't missed a beat. Randy Arozarena, there's no denying he is a true superstar in this league.
Mm-hmm.
They just have such an Margot, a hell of an outfielder. I like what they do, man. They get guys that play team baseball.
Man, they're scrappy. They're the Yankees, as much as obviously you and I both love them. I mean, they pretty much live and die by the long ball. And the Rays, they're getting singles, doubles, stealing bases, walking, getting good at bats, like they get on base and they play small ball and it pays off, and it's showing in their standings. They're not they're not like big names like an Aaron Judge on their team, nothing like that. They're just getting on base and scoring and winning games, man. It's,
Yeah, the Rays have defied the odds over the years, and it's not just some fluky thing. I mean, they've been doing it. If you track their history, they've pretty much been a top 5 to 7 baseball team year in and year out for the better part of 15 years now. They have the occasional off year like anyone does, but they're here to stay, man. I hope they stay in Florida. It's a convenience thing to be able to take the trip from Orlando into St. Pete. It is an eyesore of a stadium, but given the Florida heat, I don't mind that 72 degrees inside. And there have been some grumblings about Orlando getting a team actually, which is going to be very interesting to see if that comes to fruition. Personally, I'd love to see the Rays just move to Orlando. I think they do much better in terms of attendance because they're not getting hurt on viewership. They have good fans. It's just that 275 over there, it is not enjoyable to make that drive. Like when I go, I make sure I've got the time.
Yeah. I've never been to that stadium, so I've actually driven by it, just never been in it.
Yeah, it like I said, when you talk about all the stadiums in the league, maybe with the exception of Oakland, they're soon going to be relocated to Vegas.
Yep.
One of the worst stadiums in MLB for a litany of reasons. They're definitely in need of an upgrade, but it's not a fan-driven thing. I don't think this is the kind of thing where they don't have good fans. I think this has more to do where people would prefer to just watch them on the tube. And that's something that the Rays have to navigate around because, there are teams that want teams back, cities that want teams back. You got Montreal that would love to throw their name in the hat. And as I alluded to, Orlando's looking into it. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. But let me ask you, man, based on like the first 40, approaching that 40 game threshold, what do you think about the Yanks, though? Do you think they're going to be able to get it right and make that summer run? Or do you think it's going to be a lot of up and down?
I'm hoping they can figure it out. You kind of already touched on this, without having Rodon and Severino, that's huge. If they came in the season with those two starting pitchers on top of Cole, and Dirty Sanchez and again, their closer is still going to be an issue. Their mid-range bullpen is still sketchy to me. They really need to strengthen that up without having Stanton and Donaldson and Judge for that limited time too really test this team. And it didn't look too well. Like last year when Judge essentially carried the Yankees through like July and August because they were hurt and they were just
no doubt about
they
it.
were on that super hot streak. And then all of a sudden the Yankees just kind of tapered off and Judge carried them through that. And I mean, to ask him to do it twice is a bit much to ask anybody. And Stanton just can't stay healthy any season. It's so frustrating because with him in the lineup, it's scary, the things they can do. But I do like Volpe. I think Volpe is going to be a star. They dropped him in the lineup. But I think it was actually smart, to be honest with you.
And I like IKF as a bench piece because I feel that if you play your hand right, when he gets his limited at bats but gets the opportunities, I think he's a good presence. And he's also very flexible in terms of where you could put him. You could put him in the outfield. You could put him in the infield. I mean, hell, he's even an emergency catcher. A lot of people forget that. That's how he broke into the bigs. He was actually a catcher.
I mean, I'd rather have him in left field than Aaron Hicks. I mean, that's not saying much.
I'd rather have you in left field than Aaron Hicks. Aaron Hicks is horrible, bro. And
he's going to go. He's going to go at some point.
No matter who the player is, I always go out of my way to support the player, even when they're going through the lowest of lows. I did it last year with Joey Gallo. But Aaron Hicks, it's not an ability thing to me. I think it's up here. I think it's in the head. Because a lot of these guys, they lose their way on the confidence level. And I do believe that in that regard, it's happened to Aaron Hicks. I mean, I'm not saying that this guy was a career 300 hitter.
No.
But for a decent while, he was a good baseball player.
Yeah, I mean, when they first got him, but he couldn't stay healthy. And again, I don't know why they signed him to that crazy contract for somebody that was always hurt.
It wasn't so much about the money. It was the years.
I don't get it. And he's been hurt a bunch ever since he signed the contract. And when he does play, he's an absolute liability. And the Yankees had to boo him out of the stadium. I mean, making routine fly balls, and he's dropping them. It's ugly. What he needs is a change of scenery. He just needs to go.
I think so.
The Yankees fans had enough, and they don't even want to see him out there. And it's probably painful for Boone to put him out there, but he doesn't have anybody else, because everybody's hurt.
Yeah, that's what happens sometimes. I mean, sometimes you got to march out what you have. Mm-hmm. Certain guys in the minors aren't quite ready to make that leap. I did like what I saw from Bowers today, speaking of newer guys that are just getting their first real taste of the show.
He's been doing pretty well since they brought him up.
Yeah, I thought so. I really did. I thought so. I love Volpe. He's not hitting for average yet, but that will come with time. But he's definitely been embraced by the fans, which is a huge first step because Yankee fans can be ruthless. I mean,
100%. Oh, yeah.
In my time on planet Earth being a Yankee fan, I can say without really batting an eye, I think the only Yankee who has never been booed is probably Don Mattingly. Even Jeter got booed.
Yeah. Donnie Baseball was my my favorite player growing up, man.
And that makes two of us. He was Donnie my guy as well. Yeah. I got to see him often. So sad that he wasn't able to hang around just a couple more years. Not only do I think he would have received the World Series ring, but I also think he could have padded up those stats to get into Cooperstown. I'm one of those that will always advocate for him deserving to be in the Hall because I feel that when you talk different eras, you got to base it on what his peers think of him. And you ask guys that played first or just guys in that era, the Robin Yountz, the Mike Schmidts, the Paul Mollitors, the Cal Ripken Jr., those guys, they're going to speak highly of Donnie. Maybe one day, because as everything evolves and continues to go back and forwards with the Hall of Fame, I mean, and you look at recency of guys that got in, I almost feel like they're trying to insult us and piss us off as fans with some of this. But, Donnie Baseball, former AL MVP, career 307 batting average. He hit 400 in his lone postseason. Yes, he lost the power with the back injury, but I have never seen anyone better with the glove in my life.
I was just going to say, his gold gloves at first base, they tried to mimic him. Like, that's how good he was at first base. He was just, and
he was phenomenal.
He was very humble. He didn't, there wasn't a lot of social media and stuff at the time, but just in his interviews, he didn't really, it was always about the team. He was never trying to flash himself, or advertise for himself. He just let his game do the talking. That's like a Michael Jordan almost.
And you want to win over, you want to win over fans in big cities, like you just said, a Chicago like a Jordan or New York like Mattingly. That is the way to have that constant fan support, is to come humble and make it about the team, because you're not going to fool New York fans. That's for damn sure. And while I'm on
Not
the
a
topic,
chance.
I'm going to try to blow through this quick because I must admit I'm still bleeding a little over this. Man, this was rough. New York Knicks eliminated from the playoffs last night in South Beach, despite their first year newly acquired point guard from the Dallas Mavericks, Jalen Brunson, dropping 41. His father actually played with the Knicks back in the 90s. He was a rotational bench player. But this is my takeaway, to put it bluntly. I wish we had about 3 or 4 other guys that had the heart of this guy. In terms of heart, he reminded me in different ways of maybe Oakley and maybe Starks. Because, those two brought it no matter what the conditions were. This guy was playing on a bum ankle, elevating his game. But, I could point to the coach a little. I felt that he held on to R.J. Barrett, allowed him to be in that game a little too long, which gave me those ugly Pat Riley vibes of the 90s with John Starks. Because I think if Hubert Davis would have entered that game earlier, I think the Knicks might have hoisted that. Oh, my God. It's going on. It's 50 years now. Unbelievable. But this is the one that really gets me. It's, you got Grimes, Barrett, and Randall combined 5 for 30 from the field. And Randall is supposed to be the second best player on this team. He has proven that he cannot hack it in terms of the pressure that it takes to play in New York during the playoffs. And with the possibility of Giannis looking to relocate out of Milwaukee after they fired his coach, or even after Dame Lillard, just having a phenomenal career and wasting away in Portland, the Knicks have a lot of draft capital, and they can move a player or two to acquire one of those two guys. And if I'm the Knicks, I'm like, guys, it's been 5 decades. Get the player you need to complement, in my opinion, one of the most underrated point guards in today's NBA. But short and sweet, R.J. Barrett I could forgive to a level, but they've got to move on from Julius Randle. I think the biggest turnoff to me personally with Randle is I just view him as a selfish player. When things aren't going his way, he doesn't take a step back and realize it's not his night. I feel that he tries to make it a little too much about himself. And players like that are not winners, bottom line.
I thought you're going to be a little bit harsher on R.J. Barrett. I mean, they drafted him in the first round a couple of years ago, and he's a boomer bust player. And to me, not that I watch him exclusively or anything like that, just hearing the announcers and obviously some of your podcasts, he just seems like a Julius Randle, like you just say. He just doesn't seem like he has he's like okay, and he just kind of goes through the motions, but doesn't show the heart. But you would know better than me. But I mean,
well,
he's young, so
I'm trying. I think that's where I'm leaning towards giving him a little bit of a pass. All in all, his playoffs wasn't all that bad. I do agree with you though on the hit or miss nature of his game. And the other thing too is like, I'm like, dude, you went to Duke. You're supposed to be smarter. Respectfully, you're supposed to be smarter. Like, for a guy that went to Duke, the mental errors were just mind-blowing to me. I could forgive Brunson for that late turnover. He did everything he could possibly do to win that game. And the kind of guy he is, he's going to beat himself up over that probably for months because that's the kind of accountability. And that's what's called being a leader.
Yeah, and R.J. Barrett just would have shrugged his shoulders like, we'll get him next year. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, we need more dogs.
Just attitude. Like, it's almost like his attitude's off to me, And again,
no, I tend to agree.
In New York.
I tend to agree. And I even suggested possibly moving on from both of them in a package deal. I would probably keep Obi Toppin. I think Josh Hart did a great job defensively. But they need another guy that can take the pressure off of Brunson because I might be in a minority here. But with the injury to Quickly and with the poor shooting from your other skilled players, I was like, Tibbs, will you just dust off Derrick Rose and bring him in? He's not going to lose us the game. Evan Fournier broke a Knick record for three-pointers converted. I get it. He's not a defender. But the way that we shot, not just in that Miami series, but going back to the Cleveland series where it didn't bite us, we were able to win despite that because of the offensive rebounding. I'm like, Tibbs, this guy's about to hang it up. Put him in, man. He might surprise you. But Tibbs ultimately chose to go with what he felt got him there. But I do think that Tibbs is also in danger of being replaced, although they had a good year, given the fact that the 1 seed died early. I think the Knicks missed a golden opportunity here to make the conference championship, possibly against a Boston team that they beat 3 out of 4. We're going to find out who wins with Philly and Boston in the near future. And flipping it over to the other coast, Battle of Cali, the Lakers ended the Golden State's reign at the top of the NBA mountain. I guess my question to you and the viewers is this the end of the Warriors' run or just a bump in the road?
I almost think not necessarily clean house, but Clay hasn't been Clay, for the majority of the season. I mean,
that's a valid point.
He's an RJ Barrett, and not the attitude thing. He's boomer bust. He's dropping threes like it's nothing. One game and the next game, he completely disappears.
He might get excommunicated from the Splash Brother family. They might have, Steph might have to recruit another Splash Brother.
Draymond still. I think Draymond's fine. I mean, I don't know how much longer you can hang on to him. Wiggins is a player they have to hang on to if they want to keep going. I really like Andrew Wiggins on that team. He's a great.
I love them
player.
bringing back
Gary
Payton's
Payton.
son. Yeah, Gary Payton.
Gary Payton. These are key pieces to that team that people just like. Oh, it's all about Steph Curry. It's all about Klay Thompson. Like all the role players make that team do as well as it is. When Clay's off, someone else needs to step up, and Steph can't do it all. And Draymond's not a scorer; he's a defender. So someone has to go in there, and someone has to ball, and it's usually Wiggins. But I don't think it's the end to answer your question.
I know Giannis, who I mentioned.
They have to reassess. Try to weigh their options. But I mean, Clay hasn't been the same since his back-to-back, season-ending injuries. It's not to say he can never be the same again, but he hasn't been the same. And I don't know if there's lack of motivation or he's not healthy,
I think it's a little bit of both. I actually tend to believe it could be a little bit of both. As far as their immediate future, I do agree with you. I don't think this is the end. One of my co-hosts, Mike Zappi, huge Warriors fan, he might be a little more skeptical, thinking that the end is near in terms of their dominance. But, I had this conversation with our friend Brett recently and explaining to him that although LeBron played on a couple of super teams, like mainly Miami, I actually believe that this particular Laker team that he's a member of, because you were alluding to role players and their value, is the most balanced team he's ever had. Because the 1-2 with he and AD, you talk about an emerging player like an Austin Reeves. He's taken so much pressure off them.
Oh, 100%. If LeBron and AD's a boomer bust guy, as we've seen, he's dropping 30 and 20 rebounds, and then next night he's dropping 14 and getting 6 boards and two assists and 1 block. He's just not.
Or possibly getting in early foul trouble.
Oh yeah, and Austin Reeves is in there playing his heart out. Like again, these role players. Yes, the big names are LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but without those role players, that team doesn't go. It doesn't go.
And they made a lot of moves to assure that they were going to have that kind of balance. This is a franchise that has changed coaches over the last few years, shipped out or gave up on some big names like a Carmelo Anthony, like a Russell Westbrook over the last few years.
Yep.
But I really like what the Lakers have done. And when I look at what's remaining in the field, and I'm going to drive it right here, I think that the Lakers are going to upset the 1 seed. I don't view it as that much of an upset. Today's NBA is more predicated off of having everything ready for the playoffs. I know in the golden era, the 90s, the 80s, it was more about having that home court advantage and just, holding serve at home and winning some tough road games. Nowadays, it's about having your people healthy for the stretch. And one thing that I said to a lot of people about both the Lakers and the Warriors is that although they were lower seeded teams, they had that championship pedigree that could upset teams that might have had beautiful records, but have not been to the mountain yet. And this is a prime example of that. You have an NBA MVP finalist in Jokic. And as I already stated, the Lakers just have so much going for them right now in terms of momentum. I think it's going to be a good series, but I don't see the Lakers dropping any at home. And that's the reason I think they win this. I'm going to go Lakers in 6.
I'm going to wholeheartedly disagree with you.
Okay.
The Denver Nuggets.
I'm not going to cry if LeBron doesn't win, believe me.
Oh, no. And that's Yeah. I agree with that. But dude, Denver looks. I mean, Phoenix was no slouch. They didn't have the chemistry. I think that was probably lacking, and they didn't have Chris Paul, which you could argue that the Suns were better without him playing.
Yeah, at this juncture,
Um,
I tend to agree.
but with Booker's balling. Durant just. I don't think their chemistry was there yet. They got a midseason acquisition. They just didn't have the time together.
Legacy wise, I think this loss really hurts Durant.
I agree. They got blown out that last game, 25
At home.
and I mean Jokic, he's triple double. He's Russell Westbrook from 5 years ago, triple
Pretty
double every
much.
game, within reason. And you don't expect a 7-footer to ball like that.
No.
And he is so good.
He's got the footwork. He's got the endurance.
He's going to be the best player on the court.
Yeah.
On the court, period. That includes LeBron James, everybody. LeBron James is not the best player in the NBA anymore.
No, and no shame in that at his age. I still view him
not.
as if not in the top 10, just outside, which at his age is where he should be.
I'd say he's out of the top 10, but probably like 12 or 13.
I think he serves more now as a guy who in short spurts could take over the game, but more so the thing about LeBron's game that has always kept him relevant and kept his teams pretty good, he is a hell of a facilitator. And I do believe that if you surround him with the proper amount of talent, because, it's like anything else, a lot of people, when we get into these crazy debates about Jordan and Kobe and LeBron, and if you want to take it way back, Jerry West, Bill Russell, all these guys, I lean hard on the era thing. And I also lean hard on skill sets, and certain guys shouldn't be compared. I always tell people, you want to compare to LeBron to a player? Go to Scottie Pippen, go to Magic Johnson, go to Oscar Robertson. If you want to compare Michael Jordan to certain guys, you got to talk about your dogs that were like shooting guards, the Kobe's, the Jerry West characters, the Pete Maraviches, the Dwayne Wades. I think it's a dumb comparison is what I'm getting at. Like, I'm not going to compare Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to name your favorite point guard. You know what I mean?
Allen Iverson. Sure.
Okay.
How's that going to match up?
Right.
But to your point, I think that the best descriptive word for LeBron James at this point in his career is facilitator. 100% agree. That is his role. That is his job. And he does it well. I'm not going to take that away from him.
And he, like I said, he has those spurts where even at his age, he could still take over games in short increments of time. And he has proven that too. Like, he had that massive game against Memphis, the 2020 game, which oddly enough hadn't been done since Shaquille O'Neal to take it back.
Yep.
I like the Lakers. You like the Nuggets. This is going to be a cool series. I am going to say this, though. The Nuggets win game 1. I'm going to get that out of the way. I think if the Lakers steal game 2, which is kind of my vibe, that's why I got them winning in 6. But a 7-game outcome dogfight would not surprise me one bit.
It would surprise me. Honestly, I really do believe Denver is that much better.
Well, we're going to find out.
But who knows?
It's going to be fun, man. We're going to find out. We kind of introduced recently some of our takes on the new NFL season based on some of the scheduling. We kind of had when you do a show with 5 guys, you have a propensity for kind of running off the rails, especially when it was as late as we did that show. And believe me, there's going to be plenty of football coverage coming. Obviously, we're in the heart of baseball now.
Yep. With
our favorite hockey team. I'm a Ranger fan too. Dying. No more hockey for me. No more hockey for you. As far as baskets go, I know you alluded to that you're not the biggest NBA fan anymore. I still am running strong with those Knicks. Why, I don't know. They don't deserve me as a fan. But, that's what it is, man. If they ever finally do win, I got to say, I'll be like, well, I deserved it. I earned it. But we're going to be honest.
If the Knicks end up, I know they're in the second round this year. If they, do that again next year, I'll tune in. I won't watch the regular season, but the playoffs at least intrigue me a little bit.
I noticed what a lot of people do say what you just said, that they enjoy the playoffs but find it tough to tune in. And I do think part of that, I can't speak for everyone, is that with the rest minutes and the way that they do things, the NBA regular season to a level has lost its value. Then you got the play-in, which a lot of people aren't too.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. It just changes the whole I don't know, the game. And
I
like you
feel
said,
that if you're in the top
players,
8, you go to the playoffs. That's the end of the conversation.
done. No, I 100%. There you go. Done right there.
I mean, Miami was a
play-in
team.
Yes, there you go.
I will say Miami earned it, though. I got to say that, as much as it pains me to say that, because my hatred runs deep for that organization, going way back to the Knicks not locking up Pat Riley, letting him walk over there. The Knicks did beat them for the majority of the late 90s and early 2000s, but Miami, as an organization, has thrived post Ewing and Alonzo's great rivalry.
Yeah.
We're going to talk some NFL here. Now, I'm sure you're going to rebuttal me, and that's part of the reason why I made sure I brought you on. The NFC, these are my predictions. Just want to say that. I am not speaking for my buddy here.
No, you're good.
The Lions, 12-5. I got them as my 1 seed, mainly predicated off of a less difficult schedule than teams that are also on this list. I've got the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles at 12-5. I've got the Seattle Seahawks ending with the same record as the Niners, but winning on a better divisional record for the West. I've got the Saints at 10-7. I feel that they finally have some competency at the quarterback position. That's going to go a long way. I've got your 49ers at 11-6, my Giants 10-7, and my co-host Zappy, his Cowboys, also at 10-7 at the 7 seed. Rip, buddy, this is your time. Anything that you don't like here, speak on it. I already have a feeling you're going to tell me I'm wrong about the West.
You are wrong about the West, but that's okay. I was going to start right from the top. Lions 12-5. I know they have an easier schedule. I'm not buying what they're selling. Are they a better team under Dan Campbell? Absolutely. They're playing harder. They had a lot of holes to fill. Like, that defense was the main reason they couldn't ball last year, right? They lost Jamal Williams on the running game. Their defense, I mean, they did pick up some key pieces in their secondary, which they needed.
Yes.
Their pass rush is still not very good. And
Hutchinson needs some help.
He's it. That's all they got. And you just double him or chip him and the ball's out, and their linebackers are not good at all. Like, they can't cover. So that's what concerns me. Do I think that they'll win that division though? Absolutely. 12-5 is a bit of a stretch for me. I mean, they're going to start out 0-1. Let's be honest. They're playing at Kansas City the first week.
That would be
quite the shock.
Quite the shock if that's not the ideal start for anybody.
So I don't agree with the Lions there. Eagles can be 2. They might even be 1. They did lose some key pieces, but they locked up Hurts. Their defense is still there. Their pass rush with Hassan Reddick, and Fletcher Cox, but they did lose some of their secondary pieces.
I like what they did in the draft, but Jalen Carter is not out of the woods with that legality stuff. So we're going to see what happens there.
Well, I like how everybody was like, "Oh, the Eagles had the best draft ever." Like, Jalen Carter, legitimately just fell on their lap. They didn't do anything. They would have been stupid not to take him.
Absolutely. I thought Seattle was. I had actually mocked Seattle to grab him because let's be real, dude. As a Notre Dame fan, I'll be the first to say that, yes, Pete Carroll is a great coach, but Pete Carroll, going back to his USC days, has never overemphasized I need the best character guys in this locker room. It's about the best players and the talent.
Oh, yeah.
Pete Carroll, to me, has always been a little shady, but, he's a hell of a coach. I'm not going to take that away from him.
The Seahawks, I do not believe will win the division. I still wouldn't trust Geno Smith. I know he had a little bit of a, he did. He had a redemption year last year. He balled out, but he's still Geno Smith. He did have a good year again. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but their defense their pass rush is not very good. I know they stacked up in the draft, defensively mostly. Their running game was their key last year. And Geno had to just not make any interceptions, which of course.
What I like about what they did was receiving wise. I think that they're giving some legitimate help to their 1 and their 2, filling needs versus results. You filled the needs, as you just stated, for defense, but now you got to see if these guys are going to be on that level right away. Sometimes they come right out of the gates and they're day 1 starters. Other guys, it's the long road to get to being where they are. So it really depends.
Yeah. But I mean, the Saints, the Saints will probably win that division. I mean, you have Carolina and Bryce Young. I don't think he's ready.
Nah.
He's a Kyler Murray, but not as talented in my opinion. Now, prove me wrong. Go ahead. I hope he does. I just don't see him there. Atlanta would probably be my pick to challenge the Saints for that division.
I actually have the Panthers challenging. I think the only doormat for real is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because everybody's trying to get out of there.
Well, yeah, that's why. Yeah, Tampa Bay. I'm not even gonna bring them up. But
No
the Niners
reason
at
to.
5. No, I think they're gonna win the division. Especially with the Rams. You don't. I mean, they still have Cooper Kupp. They still have a healthy Matthew Stafford coming back. But Stafford, I don't think is Matthew Stafford anymore. They have 0 run game. All they have in the pass rush is Aaron Donald. Jalen Ramsey's gone on the back end now as well. Like their defense isn't very good. And the Cardinals are pretty much in rebuilding mode, right? I mean, you have Kyler Murray, who's probably going to be coming maybe midway through the season to start because he tore his ACL week 9 or 10 last year.
I think they're a candidate to be the worst team in all of football.
Oh yeah, well their defense didn't get any better. The defense wasn't good last year.
No, sir.
Cardinals. No. So and the 49ers have a tougher schedule than Seattle, obviously.
That's part of my reasoning with this. I think they could do a season split. You might, but ultimately, I think the reason why I thought this could be feasible, same reason why, because I'll put it to you like this. You know how last year the Vikings won all those 1-score games? But I think most of us knew that once they got tested in the playoffs, the wheels were going to come off because of how terrible their defense was.
Yep.
This is kind of the way I view the Lions this year, because I think you made some great points about explaining the issues. I think this could be the paper tiger or the paper lion, so to speak, in this year's playoffs.
You just dropped that. Nice.
I just dropped that. A little cheesy, but it's all good.
No,
I can see the Lions, getting that first round bye and then getting punched in the mouth by, let's say, Giants in Seattle. Let's just say if this came to fruition.
Sure.
I'm a Giant fan, as everyone knows. I would have to give Seattle the edge because that's a tough place to win a game at. We'll see what happens. But I do have a high belief that your division and my division are the two best in the NFC.
That's not even up for debate.
Because I have a feeling that even though the Rams are far removed from being the Super Bowl team, I still think that on a given Sunday, they're going to compete with Seattle as well as the Niners. Division rivals, they're going to show up no matter what.
Yeah. So the Giants at 10-7. I said this in after your podcast the other night. And my entire family, besides my sister and I, are all Giants fans.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So my dad, my brother, my uncles, my grandfather, they're all Giants fans, right?
Right.
And my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, is Giants fan. Anyways, so I am not unfamiliar with the Giants. And I've had Giants fans tell me, and they'll admit it, they overachieved last year. They were not as good as everybody made them. They probably didn't even belong in the playoffs. Now, when they were playing Minnesota in the first round last year, I picked the Giants to win. And Minnesota the Giants were just a better team. The Vikings, they didn't. I mean, Justin Jefferson's a freaking baller.
I said this on a show recently.
Terrible.
To your point about getting lucky getting in the playoffs, I told this to my friends. 1-5-1. What was that? 1-4-1 in the division. 1-4. Yeah, 1-4-1 in the division. You have to be at least a 3-win team in the East to have a chance at the playoffs this year. You're not going to go 5-0 against the AFC every year.
Nope. And again, I think the Giants overachieved last year. Brian Daboll came in there and completely changed the culture. This is the first draft from the Giants in probably 5 or 6 years that I was like, wow, they actually had a good draft.
Because I don't think taking Thibodeau and Neal was genius. I think they were there and you did what you were supposed to do. But this year, I was more impressed with the creativity of upstairs.
Yeah, I thought this was the best draft they've had in years. Just my opinion. And for the Giants to be 10-7, a lot would have to happen in my brain for that to come to fruition. Again, I believe they overachieved last year. They can extend that though. Let's see what they got. I mean, Saquon he'll play.
For sure. And I'm not going to rule out that they don't find some middle ground. I will say this: I think he's getting poor advice from his team, in the sense that he wants 16. I get it. He wants McCaffrey money, listen, I love Saquon, and with no disrespect, I don't think he's McCaffrey.
He's not.
I
He doesn't have
don't.
the hands.
He does not have the hands.
You can put McCaffrey anywhere. And
When I think
essentially he'll
about the
play.
two players that are making more money than Saquon, if Saquon would have took the 14 deal that he just turned down recently, like super recently, I'm like, dude, you're only behind Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. And with all due respect to Saquon, I love the guy. But to your point, he doesn't have the hands. Now, he might outrush those guys because Saquon proved this year that he could be that workhorse. He looked very much like the Penn State player, like the 2018 Rookie of the Year.
He finally, a full year removed from his injury. When he first came back 2 years ago, he wasn't the same. But last year, he was fully removed and fully healed from injury, and he balled out.
Yeah, and lower extremity injuries, and I've said this even pertaining to a guy like an Odell, it truly takes 2 years until you're back looking like yourself. And, running backs have the shortest life expectancy. Not everybody is going to be able to hang around forever like an Adrian Peterson. Your guy McCaffrey, my guy Saquon, one thing that both these young men have had to overcome is the injury bug because nobody's going to question their God-given abilities.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Ultimately, I think Saquon has to kind of pipe down a little and chill out a little with what he thinks the value is, because the value is not with running backs right now. And on a bigger thing, he has to really ask himself, do you want to test free agency and realize that 2 giant deals might have looked better than what they did? Because the Giants might turn around and be like, okay, pal, we're gonna franchise you for a second year. 22 million guaranteed if you sign both tenders. Don't get hurt for 2 years, then we'll talk. We'll see. But as of right now, I'm not against the organization for playing hardball.
No, I think they're doing the right thing. I mean, if I had to flip a coin and pick between Daniel Jones and Saquon, I think they did the right thing by keeping Daniel Jones just because it's your quarterback. You got to stick with him at this point. I mean, you drafted him in the first round and all that fun stuff. Didn't trade up to get him, but Saquon, to your point, I think he needs to show he can not get injured for a couple of years, and then they'll extend him. They'll give him a big contract that he wants. But to go back to your list here, the Cowboys at 10-7, I think they're going to have a better record than that. Like I said, last year, the NFC playoffs were just different in all the other years in that there was 3 teams that actually were good, and the other teams were just there. And that included the Giants, that included Minnesota, that included Seattle, and Tampa Bay, but the 49ers, the Cowboys, and the Eagles were on a separate tier. Those 3 were the only teams that, had a shot, and they're just honestly, they're that much better than every other team in that division.
And you look at the misfortune that your team caught in the title game. I mean, essentially, it was like 11 guys playing against 10 guys.
I mean, and that's why the December 6th game this year, there was a lot of chatter after that. The 49ers, all they wanted was a clear shot to play them. That's all they wanted.
Yeah,
and they lost their quarterback in the second series. They were done.
I mean, dude, Trey Lance, Jimmy G, Purdy, and then you end up with Josh Johnson, who I will give him one bit of credit to be able to still be in the league, and that he's pretty good at picking up playbooks right away. I mean, I was cracking up, dude. I remember a couple years ago. Yeah, dude. Me and Brett were watching Thursday Night Football a couple years ago, and he at the time was quarterbacking for the Jets in an emergency signing situation. And they asked him straight up. They were like, and he actually played pretty well in that game. And they asked him, like, how do you handle all this with just constantly going through the mill of the life in the NFL as a career backup? He's like, I like to play Madden like everybody else does. And he says, that's how I knew who my teammates were. So I started reaching out to different guys and saving everybody. That is kind of cool, humble.
Good sense of humor.
Good sense of humor for sure, and actually being honest with it. Just to let the viewer know before we move into the AFC, if my bracket came to fruition, as much as it pains me to say this, I still got the Philadelphia Eagles winning the conference and going to the Super Bowl for a second consecutive year. If I am right, I will be rooting like hell for whoever represents the AFC.
Boom.
All right, AFC. My predictions again here. Got the Chiefs going 13-4. Bengals at 12-5. I got the Jags in that very soft division going 11-6. I got the Jets going 11-6 after what I feel will be a good second half. I think a slow start. I got them edging out the Buffalo Bills, who also will be 11-6. I got the Chargers at 11-6, and I got the Steelers with a patented tie against the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be a terrible game for both organizations, but that tie will propel them into the playoffs over Miami. I don't wish injury on anyone, but I think Tua will miss time like he normally does. And I also have a feeling that Odell Beckham will miss time. Don't wish it on them, just my opinion. But these are the teams that I have going this year.
Well, the Chiefs, I would go 12-5. Their receiving core is not. I mean, their receiving core wasn't even that great last year. It was Travis Kelce and everybody else.
I agree. Juju did step up to a level, but Juju brings the value with the downfield blocking.
I mean, Juju's is a big dude, but he's not there.
Now he's with Brett's guys.
Yeah. Good luck, New England.
Oh my.
But Cincinnati, yep. I'd take Cincinnati there. Jacksonville, I'm not sold. All right. I mean, will they win that division? Probably.
I like that Ridley is going to be in the mix now. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a big year.
I think he's going to take a step. They still don't have a very good running game, and they don't have any pass rush. Their defense is still not very good.
I think they have pieces. I think that you have certain guys that on certain days are going to ball out. But I think as an overall unit, they're still looking and trying to figure it out on the whole.
Yeah. Their offensive line is still not very good either. Same thing with Cincinnati, but Trevor Lawrence can get the ball out quick, and he's got some receivers to throw the ball to, man. I mean, they'll be okay, but I would say 10-7 maybe will win that division, maybe even 9-8.
I'll be honest, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. I think 7-10 could win that division.
I gotta give Jacksonville more credit than that, though, dude.
Oh, they will win more than that. I'm just saying that's what I think of that division.
Yeah, it's not very good.
It reminds me of the NFC East back in 2020 when everybody had a historically bad year and somebody had to win the division.
Yeah. Jets, I think the Jets are going to take a positive step, but I do not believe they will make the playoffs.
Wow. Okay.
I don't. Do they have a very tough schedule?
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, the East plays the East.
Like they could very well go like 1-8 if they don't like actually play to their potential in some of those games. I mean, it's a very brutal schedule.
You know what my sell point is with the Jets, and believe me, being a Giant fan, I got no love for them. It's that they managed to win 7 games last year without any true help at the quarterback position, whether it was an aging Joe Flacco, whether it was Zach Wilson, whether it was Mike White. They probably would have called your boy Johnson if they were in the playoffs, but you guys beat him to that. After you guys ran through 3 pretty good quarterbacks and landed on that guy, you guys, I've never seen a team so snake bitten at quarterback in my life. But that was. But this is the same organization that had the luxury of having Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jeff Garcia, Colin Kaepernick. You guys had some good quarterbacks, 2 great ones and 2 very good ones. Also, Alex Smith was pretty damn good in his time too. So I got him in. 11-6 with a slow start. I think they're going to heat up in the second half. And I also like them because I like their defense. I actually think player for player.
Their defense is, well, that was the only thing keeping them in games. Then they had the run game. Then they lost
Breece Hall.
They, as soon as that went down and they had to rely on the quarterback more, that's when they really started to taper off. Their defense is, like Quinnen Williams is just an animal.
Yeah, he sure is. I like what they did with their first pick this year. Sauce Gardner, man, the guy's playing like he's been in the league for 5 years.
I know, he's crazy. I was blown away by how well he played.
I did nail that prediction on how quick he would catch on.
Yes, you did.
Brett was laughing at me.
Yeah. Well, Brett's delusional with his Patriots anyway.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad you said that. You heard that, Brett? You heard that, Brett?
Yikes. The Bills, I do believe they're going to take a step back. So they could very well be 11-6 or 10-7. Again, with the tough division with the Jets now. Josh Allen is as good as he is so turnover prone, and everybody overlooks it because
the gunslinger element, similar to a Brett Favre in his heyday.
I mean, he can ball.
And I love Josh Allen. I really do. I'm not a Buffalo fan, but I got nothing but respect.
How many turnovers he has. And their defense didn't get any better.
No,
You know,
no, they did not.
and their defense wasn't that big of a problem anyway. But again, they still have Steph Diggs, and then who you got?
Well, that's the other thing too,
They have
is
no
that
running game still, right? I mean,
I thought that if they want to get over the top on offense, they got to approach Arizona at the midway point and try to acquire
D-Hop.
Yeah, you got to try to acquire D-Hop because personally, I think Gabe Davis is a good football player, but he's more like a number 3, and they got him as a number 2.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And let's be honest, if you're trying to beat the Buffalo Bills, what do? Drop freaking 7 or 8, man, because they're not going to run the ball, and if they do, they're not going to go far.
And in the elements, you can run the ball against this team.
Yeah, that was their problem. I mean, Cincinnati made them look kind of foolish in the
Your 49ers did it to the Packers a couple of years ago in that
Mostert just tore them up
in that hockey rink that they were playing in that day.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, I saw the Indianapolis Colts back when Prince Harry was still their quarterback. Jonathan Taylor ran it up and down the field in rainy Buffalo. I feel that Buffalo, similar to Green Bay in the Rodgers era, while there are I don't view them as the roster that's necessarily perfect for the region that they play in, because even though Buffalo's history would suggest different, I think that their roster right now is more of a finesse team. And Brett actually made that point up about a year or so ago when he was breaking down the Packers, and he actually was right.
Yeah, I agree to that. But again, that's why Buffalo, within reason, doesn't scare me. They're a very dangerous team, but again, at some point, someone's going to figure out the formula, like Cincinnati did. You know what I mean? Like it's just
they did,
the field and just and you can beat them.
They feasted on those injuries because they had zero answer for Jamar Chase and company. They were
Higgins, Tyler Boyd, even Mixon went off.
They had a party back then.
Oh, exactly. There's having a party.
DeMar Hamlin, thank God he's okay, but obviously he wasn't part of the game plan because he was recovering. Von Miller got hurt. Just so many injuries. Buffalo has to stay healthy. And I do think that the Jets and Buffalo are going to put up 2 great games this year.
Well, the Von Miller thing, too, like everybody was, I live up in upstate New York, and the Bills fans are obnoxious, and it's exhausting.
No, I get it.
But like when they signed Von Miller, I'm just like, you guys know he's not Von Miller from 10 years ago, right? When he played for Denver, it was an absolute dominating force. Like, even when he played in LA when they won the Super Bowl, yes, he was on the team, but he was not Von Miller anymore. And you guys just signed him to a 3-year deal and paid him all this money.
I liken it to what I said about LeBron. He could dominate in short spurts.
Yeah, I'm just saying he wouldn't have put him over the hump defensively. Just my opinion. But is he a good player? Absolutely.
He's a good leader. Is one of the appeals of him. I wouldn't have paid him that much, but
that's what I mean. And
he does have that appeal as a leader. He's well respected by the other guys.
All his peers,
no doubt.
Chargers. I like the Chargers there. I would take Baltimore over Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's still going to have a winning record.
Okay.
Let me just say that because Mike Tomlin doesn't have losing records.
No, he certainly doesn't. Mike Tomlin's a winner.
So, but Baltimore, I mean, they added Zay Flowers and they got Odell and they still have Mandrews. Now Lamar's finally happy. Can he stay healthy? Who the heck knows? And that's why
part of the reason why I didn't put him in here. It wasn't even the Odell factor. It was more, I'm worried if Lamar, 3 years in a row, he hasn't been able to finish out the year. But,
J.K. Dobbins still running the ball. He's going to be fully recovered from his injury. Like, they're going to be a dangerous team, and their defense is still decent. I would use the word decent, not like over the top power forward.
Yeah, they're not what they were in the Billick era or in the Harbaugh era earlier. But, yeah, I think that, and even a team like a Miami, who I didn't put in here, it's hard for me to trust that Tua is going to be healthy for the whole year, and that's part of the reason why I didn't put him in. But you might have a situation where the team you just mentioned, Baltimore, the team I mentioned, Miami, and these guys, similar to what just happened this past year, going into the final week of the season, they need that win and maybe a little help. Or
some help, yeah.
Right.
Well, when you have Waddle and Tyreek Hill in Miami, I mean, people would be begging for that. You know what I mean? To have those 2 receivers to throw the ball to. They're a dangerous team, but without Tua, they fell right off the deep end. I mean, when Tua went to San Francisco last year, they made him look silly too. But yeah, I don't know.
I think the biggest shock was that Skylar Thompson was able to keep the Miami Dolphins in that game. but it was kind of a preview of what was going to happen to Buffalo against a much more talented Cincinnati team just a week later.
Yep.
To the viewers, should this bracket come to fruition, I actually have the Los Angeles Chargers and the New York Jets facing off in the AFC title game.
Wow.
I have some upsets going down, to put it bluntly.
You must.
Yeah. But, because repeating is such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure that the Chiefs, because I thought last year, the events in Cincinnati, which almost turned tragic with DeMar Hamlin, really changed the landscape of the AFC playoffs. It was just an unprecedented situation. I feel that the Chiefs did catch a break given the scenario. And to be honest with you, were it not for a couple of plays or a couple of missed calls, I think the Bengals were the better team last year when they played them. I'm still not sold on the Bengals O-line.
Oh, no, not at all. But to go back to the Chiefs, though, too, like I said, I think they're going to take a step back. Like, they got, in my opinion, worse. I mean, still have Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter. I mean, that dude can make anybody a star, probably, like a Tom Brady even. But, again, their receiving core, they lost Frank Clark on the defensive end. And
that's a big loss, dude.
It was a huge loss. And he was their only pass rush. I mean, he's a freaking beast. So again, if you just look at those pieces they lost compared to what they gained, there isn't much to talk about other than, like they didn't get any better. They didn't re-sign Trent Brown. So it's sketchy,
I've just learned over time that because of who their head coach is, another thing too, that I'm going to piggyback you now that you said that, Bieniemy's gone. Now, granted, he didn't have the play calling duties on the level that he's going to have now.
The Commanders.
A lot of people lose sight of the fact that Andy Reid really is the mind over there.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole other conversation. Bieniemy's going to be the Washington Commander coach by like week 8. I think Rivera's on borrowed time. But no, you make some good points. I mean, it's just been hard for me to count out these Chiefs because they keep proving people wrong. And, it's a convenience thing. I mean,
I'm not counting them out. I'm just saying I just don't think they're going to be as good as last year. That's all.
When sports writers and people who choose MVP awards and things like that, I feel that sometimes a guy like a Mahomes, similar to a guy like a Michael Jordan in the NBA or a guy like a Kobe Bryant, I think that they get overlooked, and it's like you got to find other guys to give awards to when most of us know who the best players are at the time. I'm going to say, man, I'm bugging out on that. Let me get off that nonsense that I just said. Chiefs are winning this conference again because somebody has to take it away. It ain't the Chargers. It ain't the Jets. I was thinking about it. I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh, this guy can upset that one. No. Stop it, Richie. You've been alive for so long. The Chargers ain't winning anything.
I don't know, man. With a healthy Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Eckler and Justin Herbert's a baller, like they have a decent offensive line. Their defense was their issue last year. They had lost Joey Bosa for an extended amount of time.
Right. Khalil Mack was also dinged up. And J.C. Jackson. Yeah, so, if they stay healthy, possibly could be a threat. Maybe they're the guys who win that division. It's going to be good. And like I said, this is the beauty of it because we have so many shows to come in the near future. This is the way too early preview. There's going to be so many things that come from training camp to injuries to contract disputes to name it.
Oh, yeah.
So much.
Well, that some quarterback somewhere, like maybe it'll be Herbert, not trying to. I don't wish it on anybody, but someone's going to get hurt in OTs.
Yeah, it's the nature of the business. Guys get hurt.
Now they're gone. Now you're like, well, I picked the Chargers to go to the playoffs, but not anymore because Herbert's gone, right? I mean, all that stuff happens. Just like you said, name of the game.
We're coming up on the final minute. Dude, thank you so much for joining the show. I just want to basically tell you moving forward, you are always welcome to join us. I know Brett would love to probably jump on the show with you. We got a nice group of guys here. We got Idris, we got Zappy, my guy Corey, who's been an awesome baseball contributor. My buddy Quinton Moore, a.k.a. The Mask, he's been coming on. He had quite a few things to say about Philly, which basically ran it off the rails. And I was like, this is awesome. This is great theater. Yeah. And Brett was like, man, Q really went off the rails. I was like, yes, he did. But this is the thing, Bretsky. When you go off the rails, it's not as funny as that was.
Yeah.
And on that For my friend, Mr. Ryan Shedd, I'm your host, Richie. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't, please make it a point to like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie X Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. We will be back soon, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. We are out.